bands. It was always bands. Because solo acts are boring. You know, I'm nothing without my band.
La chanteuse américaine Chrissie Hynde incarne le groupe Pretenders avec son rock pur et dur. À la fin des années 70, après une longue période d'errance à Londres, son style musical est révélé par sa rencontre avec 3 musiciens. Les Pretenders inventent un rock mélodique, au refrain entêtant. OVNI musical dans l'Angleterre secouée par l'explosion punk. Ces musiciens vont et viennent, disparaissent, engloutis par les ravages de la drogue ou les inévitables refontes du groupe. Au fil des années, Chrissie Hynde devient la garante de ce son unique. Chef de bande, elle est pionnière dans ce monde du rock, majoritairement masculin à l'époque. Avec une quinzaine d'albums, des millions de disques vendus, les Pretenders fabriquent des tubes planétaires. 4 décennies dédiées au rock, sans compromis.
Hello, I've been asked to say a few words about the Pretenders, an exciting band made up of 3 talented English boys. Martin Chambers, the drummer.
Amazing.
James Honeyman Scott, a super guitar player. Pete Farndon. When he's not playing his electric bass, you can find him on his bike.
I've always ridden Bonneville's Triumphs since about 65.
Last but not least is Chrissie Hynde, lead vocalist and an amazing Yankee girl who's certainly very busy these days.
I had a job. Oh, that's not. I lived in Paris for a year. I'm from Ohio, though, so you really...
There's a new #1 in Britain, and I'm delighted, because it's the Pretenders.
Brass in pockets!
Got brass in pocket. Got paddle. I'm gonna use it. Intention. I'm feeling mental. Gonna make you notice.
Je trouvais que cette chanson, ça collait pas du tout. C'était du disco un peu faiblard de chanteuse américaine de boîte de nuit. Chaque fois que je l'entendais, j'étais furieuse. J'étais quand même à côté de la plaque, parce qu'elle est devenue numéro 1 partout.
Here we come, all relaxed. And action, Jimmy, Chris, Martin and Pete making up the Pretenders. Did you think that it was going to be as big as it was, you know?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't, particularly.
Yeah? I mean, in England and Australia, but I mean, it broke you worldwide. I mean, was it hard to sort of comprehend that suddenly, like, coming out of nowhere, bang, this number sort of suddenly went up the charts everywhere?
That was great.
Yeah?
Yeah, it felt good. Puts a strain on you because you realise that you have to work harder.
Right. Chris, what about you? I mean, did you like the publicity?
I don't like publicity much myself. I think the others probably do, but I...
Yeah.
Chris is a shy, retiring type, aren't you, Chris?
Yes, I find it a little bit embarrassing, all that.
Well,
So I think it's better, really, for me if I don't read the press or pay much attention to that.
Well, I've got to ask you, happy with the new single?
Oh, yes, I'm delighted with it. I think it's probably one of the best things we've done.
All right, well, listen, and best of luck with the new single.
Thanks.
Okay.
suis descendue de l'avion à Heathrow et j'ai foulé le tarmac anglais avec mes lunettes de soleil, dont les verres portaient les inscriptions Iggy et Pop, en lettres gothiques, que j'avais soigneusement dessinées avec du Tipex. Chaque recoin de la ville me semblait totalement fascinant. Je me réveillais tous les matins comme une femme amoureuse, à ce stade de l'amour où l'être aimé n'a encore aucun défaut. Mon rêve, c'était de faire de la musique.
I wasn't in the music scene. I was selling handbags on Tottenham Court Road. And then making picture frames. Working in I've modeled in an art college. Drew T-shirts. I mean, I did a lot of things before I eventually got in the bands.
I definitely actually remember how I first met Chrissie. She was just a character. For a start, she's incredibly funny. And she's wearing some sort of mini skirt and that yeah look. And she was complete homeless and, you know, sort of wandering around like a bohemian beatnik.
J'ai trouvé un job comme journaliste musicale dans un magazine. Ça, ou serveuse, c'est à peu près pareil. Mais au moins, je voyais plein de concerts à l'œil.
As a journalist, Chrissie Hynde's sort of American way of looking at things, you know, one of the things about the NME was that it was a bit sneery and it would put down people a lot. And she seemed to fall into that vein very much.
Plus mes articles étaient dédaigneux et mal écrits, plus le magazine m'applaudissait. J'avais passé un an à massacrer des groupes, à dire que tout était de la merde. Et j'en étais désolée. Je voulais à nouveau aimer la musique.
I did buy a copy of the Melody Maker and start looking through the back pages for, you know, ads for vocalists wanted. And I think I made a few phone calls, but it was still something I was keeping pretty quiet.
À un moment, j'ai réalisé que c'était vraiment ce que je voulais faire. J'ai commencé à beaucoup voyager pour chercher mon propre style musical. Je suis retournée aux sources en Ohio, puis j'ai bougé dans tous les États-Unis. Et je suis allée en France.
Les Frenchies étaient un groupe de 5 garçons dans le vent, rebelles, renfermés sur nous-mêmes, très snobs, fâchés avec tout le monde. 5 Frenchies à une guitare. Et puis moi à la basse. Et puis au chant, deuxième chant. Enfin, les hurlements, quoi. J'avais garé ma très belle moto, une espèce de très bel insecte, une triomphe, devant l'entrée des artistes. Et quand je suis sorti encore complètement déglingué par la scène, il y avait une fille assise sur le bord de ma selle et elle me ressemblait. On avait la même coupe de cheveux, le même t-shirt noir, le même blouson de cuir, le même jean 501 Perfecto, les mêmes Santiago et le même ceinturon mexicain. Et on est parti en moto, on est arrivé chez ma maman et ça a été notre première rencontre. Le chanteur était parti, on n'était plus que 3 du groupe. Alors j'ai cette idée de dire, mais pourquoi on ne fait pas totalement différent? Au lieu de prendre un chanteur, on prend une chanteuse, au lieu de prendre un Français, on prend une étrangère. J'ai dit, on va faire venir une fille. Et Chrissie est arrivée, elle chantait bien, elle se démerdait bien. Elle avait une bonne culture musicale et on avait la musique noire en commun. Il y avait Bo Diddley, Marvin Gaye, on avait été à des concerts ensemble. Elle était ma copine, on sortait, on buvait des bières, on faisait de la moto, on se défonçait la gueule, on allait chercher de la dope, on répétait de la musique. Moi, j'ai eu un problème avec elle, c'est qu'elle voulait absolument jouer de la guitare. Et comme nous sortions d'années de travail intense tous les jours, on était à un niveau qui n'était pas le sien, et moi, je pensais que ça nous freinait. Et moi, je lui ai dit, Chrissie, de toute façon, t'es la fille, t'es américaine, donc de toute façon, ça sera Chrissie Hynde et le Frenchies, ou Chrissie Hynde et le groupe, quel que soit le groupe. Et ça a été le problème. Ouais, c'est compliqué l'équilibre dans les groupes.
Mon problème, c'est que dans la vie, je suis du genre loup solitaire. Mais pour la musique, j'ai une mentalité de sport collectif. Je veux jouer dans un groupe, avec un guitariste, un bassiste, un batteur. Être au centre de tous les regards, c'était pas mon plan. Il était chaque jour plus évident que je ne trouverais pas ce que je cherchais à Paris. Alors à quoi bon rester dans ce paradis? C'était quoi l'intérêt du jardin d'Éden, s'il n'y avait ni Adam, ni pomme? J'ai décidé de retourner à Londres. Le squat de Caversham Street, à Chelsea, était à 2 pas de la maison de Margaret Thatcher. J'étais clandestine, sans le sou, et en manque cruel d'un groupe. J'avais l'impression d'être la reine des loseuses.
England was pretty much of a dump. The social existence was not very good. You know, transport was bad, it was inept. You'd only have electricity 3 days a week, and bits of those 3 days as well, due to minor strikes or whatever. The country seemed pretty much to be falling apart.
It seemed like the collapse of Western civilization, hence punk.
Voilà. C'est ce qui s'est produit quand le punk a déferlé. Tout ce qui s'était passé avant a été jeté aux ordures, sans aucun respect ni excuse.
The atmosphere of the punk scene was reckless and wild and extremely free. When people don't feel they have any control, you know, it's anarchy, it's chaos. Within it, obviously, there's a kind of liberation. And Chrissie just really fitted in.
I was luckily in London when the whole punk thing got started. In 1976 and 77, when it was really happening, that scene, I mean, it was great, marvelous. Some good music. It was always entertaining, whatever was going on.
She was part of a group that included the Slits, the Raincoats, the Au Pairs, the Modettes. And that really was the first time in history that you could find a number of women musicians hanging out together, you know, in a bar or a club. And because it was punk, it wasn't like the old school 1950s, because we were more equal. It was, you know, a new age. And also it was the start of DIY, so girls could get together and make a little record. There was a lot of women artists, or not a lot, because it's still a tiny grain of sand in the desert compared to the guys. But at last, we had some.
Tous les gens que j'avais croisés dans ma vie faisaient maintenant partie d'un groupe. Je n'avais plus d'espoir que ça m'arrive. Mais j'étais tellement habituée à l'échec que, tel un cheval de trait en route pour l'abattoir, je continuais à avancer.
She auditioned bands. She ended up briefly in Johnny Moped's band, of all places. And they sacked her for not being good enough. She was just scrabbling around, you know. I think she probably felt that nobody really appreciated her, so I imagine, you know, she was just getting more and more frustrated. So she must be wondering possibly if she was ever going to get the chance to get her music in front of an audience. And it was, you know, a long, slow process, quite painful.
You know, I remember vividly seeing her at this bus stop on the Fulham Road with her guitar case, her leather jacket, looking a bit sad. Waiting for a bus, but, you know, it's hard. Life is hard, you know.
Tout ça semblait mener nulle part. Un jour, l'agent artistique Malcolm McLaren et Vivienne Westwood, la styliste, m'ont proposé un job de vendeuse dans leur boutique qui s'appelait Sex.
You weren't dressing to attract the opposite sex. You were dressing to tell everyone to go fuck themselves, basically. It was a real up yours mentality.
Je m'achetais un jean Levi's pour 3 livres, puis pendant 3 jours, sous speed, je prenais un marqueur pour écrire des mots en spirale le long de mes jambes. Je portais des sous-vêtements par-dessus mon jean et des préservatifs en guise de boucles d'oreilles. Je me suis même fait virer d'un pub à cause de ma tenue.
Anything goes. It didn't matter. And I think that's what punk especially sort of reflected in fashion-wise and attitude-wise. Vivienne's clothes, they were very bondage-orientated. It was a great look. I loved it. And, you know, and if people sort of like stood away and were like quite horrified and shocked, so what? Didn't matter. It was part of the deal. That's what it was all about. You were trying to shock the system. That's why the band were the way they were. So it was like a melting pot of everybody, and if they sort of went off and made their own bands, then great. And Chrissie was part of that melting pot too. And that's where the Sex Pistols were formed. The very first gig for the Pistols, I mean, it was so confrontational.
Leur concert était un chaos total. Johnny Rotten était un drôle de zèbre. On aurait dit un croisement entre Poil de Carotte et Johnny Mitchell. Quand il chantait, si on peut appeler ça chanter, il donnait toujours l'impression d'être au bord des larmes de joie, de douleur, d'indignation et de frustration. Il avait une présence envoûtante sur scène.
She benefited from the earthquake of punk that was very suited to her rebellious and yet zen personality. She was ravenous to progress with her art.
Le plus drôle dans mon désir inébranlable de faire partie d'un groupe, c'est que je n'avais vraiment aucune idée de ce que je recherchais. Je savais juste qu'il fallait que ce soit dur, pas mou. Je n'ai jamais aimé les choses molles. Pour moi, c'était du dur en toutes circonstances. Le thé corsé, le café noir, la glace ferme, pas fondante. Le rock, dur, pas mou, agressif, sans vergogne, masculin. Voilà tout. Comment je trouverais ma place dans cette aventure? Je n'en avais aucune idée.
She was a rocker. And she needed a kick-ass rock band. Sort of hunky-looking guys that she thought were cute, that she could feed off. Do you know what I mean?
J'ai simplement attendu que le meilleur arrive, et je l'ai saisi. Après 5 ans d'errance, tout s'est très vite enchaîné.
I met Chrissie in a pub in London, a bar. I was introduced to her by an old school friend. He played drums. He asked me if I wanted to come down and blow. And I said yes. And we just got it together. I knew Martin, I knew Jimmy. We were all from the same town in England, a place called Hereford. So...
You knew right from the start it was going to work, or did it take...
Yeah, well, yeah. I could tell as soon as I heard her sing and play guitar.
Well, first of all, she's got a bloody good voice,
That was the first thing that hit me, obviously, the voice.
Chrissie's unique, you know, not only because she's got a great voice, she can play guitar and she can be pretty sassy and, you know, it's got that tough, you know, kid-for-rent image.
It is time for you to stop all of your sobbing. Yes, it's time you to stop all of your sobbing. Oh, there's one thing you gotta do to make me still want you. Gotta stop sobbing now.
Stop Your Sobbing was a song that I remembered. It was on the first Kinks album in the States. A song that I particularly liked at the time. And one day we were at rehearsal and it just sprang back to mind and I started singing. I thought, oh, what a marvelous song. So when we did a demo tape, we thought we'd just put it on because it was a sort of a sweet little number.
Make me still want you. Gotta stop sobbing now.
My friends were surprised, especially in that punk scene, you know. You wouldn't have done a cover song of a 60s song. It wasn't the thing to do.
Makes me born. Take you in my arms and tell you to stop all your sobbing.
Nous avons passé une journée à enregistrer 6 chansons. Jimmy trouvait une harmonie entre les mélodies de sa guitare et mon agressivité de fille punk. On n'avait rien en commun. Il aimait ABBA et moi Iggy Pop. Mais on s'est mis à jouer et tout d'un coup, ça devenait mon groupe.
She was so brilliantly served by James Honeyman Scott, her guitarist. He would play whatever was needed to complement and enhance and expand the track. There was no great ego in his playing. Everything was at the service of her voice, the songs, the arrangement, and how to get across a good melody with a great hook. It would be the kind of thing that, you know, you hear 2 or 3 times, then you couldn't get out of your mind.
Quand on s'est rencontrés, j'étais écorchée vive et pleine de colère. Mais Jimmy a su tirer de moi des sons mélodieux. J'ai encouragé chez lui le côté rocker. Et lui, l'importance de la mélodie chez moi. On a fait des concerts à travers le Royaume-Uni, mais je n'étais jamais pressée de monter sur scène au début. J'espérais même que quelque chose empêcherait le concert, comme une météorite qui tomberait sur la salle. J'avais juste peur. Le trac. Mais finalement, le sentiment d'être à la maison a pris le pas sur tout le reste. Avec une guitare en bandoulière, devant un micro, enfin chez moi.
We'll go about getting a song together is I'll come in with a riff on the guitar and, you know, melody. Hopefully I'll have the lyrics. I'll play it and the band just go to town on it, you know. And it gets the inimitable Pretenders sound.
You are that.
There are tracks you can relate to punk, but the Pretenders sound, taken as a whole, was much more expansive, much more engaging, much more inviting to a wider audience.
It was interesting for me because there was like a variation of material. It wasn't just like straight 4/4 stuff. There was different time signatures, different moods of music, you know, a bit of reggae, you know, a bit of a ballad here, you know. We, you know, do different sorts of things in our own way.
We're a variety act, really, I think.
That's right. You know, I'm an out-of-work juggler, you know.
Yeah. Are you really?
Absolutely.
I'm
still looking for
definitely an out-of-work juggler at the moment. Throwing sticks around.
I got a pretty good act with one hand, but it's not as good as the full act, you know, with the, you know, juggling kittens. You know.
mean biker look, you know, the leather jacket, the quiff, the leather trousers, the biker boots. He was obviously somebody who'd spent quite a bit of time in front of a mirror. Jimmy and Martin, they looked a bit new wavy, but you know, obviously not punk. And then Chrissie, you know, just came along with her own look and completed the lineup and the image.
So, you know, I was a tomboy, and I like guy things. You know, I just had boyish tastes, I suppose.
She carries that androgynous quality, and she loved to be one of the boys, you know, and the boys loved her to be one of them. Chrissie was a pioneer of that gender creations that we are living through.
Je refusais qu'on me prenne en photo toute seule, parce que la chanteuse, c'était souvent synonyme de sex symbole, et on attendait ça de moi. Mais j'ai tenu bon. Les Pretenders, c'était nous quatre.
I can't imagine a band that get along better with each other. I mean, there's no rifts between members, or, you know, everyone really digs everyone else. Because, I mean, the other three musicians are like just fantastic musicians. I wouldn't want to replace them with anybody if I had the choice of any musician in the world. And I think everyone in the band feels that way.
Aux États-Unis, on a tourné comme des bêtes pour le deuxième album. J'étais passée de la fille dont on ne voulait pas à la rebelle préférée de l'Amérique. Comme de nombreux groupes, on était des toxicos enragés, mais on était plutôt perçus comme en forme, à cause de nos disques pop et mélodiques.
Did Chrissie want to come in and join us, or she rather?
She's a bit tired, I think.
How much do the Pretenders rehearse?
For a world tour, you know, we finish in March in New Zealand, and that was the rehearsal for the world tour, 6 days.
I know it's 1780 shows here over the next 3 to 3.5 months, finishing at the end of October, beginning of November.
Yeah, November the 9th, I think we finished.
And then we go to Japan. No, then we do another UK tour, then we do another
European tour.
Then we go to Japan, New Zealand, and the States. No, Australia.
Pendant la tournée, j'ai commencé à sortir avec Ray Davies, le chanteur des Kings, mon idole de jeunesse. Ça a eu un impact plutôt négatif sur le groupe. Les gars ne l'aimaient pas, Pete surtout. Peut-être parce qu'on était sortis ensemble au début. De toute façon, dès que j'étais avec quelqu'un, il s'enfermait dans les toilettes pour se faire un shoot d'héros. Le côté junkie de Pete avait pris le dessus. Il habitait comme une possession démoniaque.
Right at the end of the very long world tour that they did, promoting Pretenders 2, it was very clunky. You know, Jimmy was just playing, riffing more heavily than usual. It had all become a bit more bombastic. So she was having to sing louder over him. Martin would be, you know, just kind of bludgeoning on. An uglier, sort of bigger, brasher sound. You know, the original clean sort of energy had become obfuscated by all these rock and roll cliches. None of them seemed happy in their roles anymore. There seemed to be a discordancy.
J'étais comme un capitaine naufragé, essayant de ramener l'équipage vers le rivage. C'était tout simplement au-dessus de mes forces.
And there was a lot of degeneration in the band at that point.
Right.
You know, this is when we started. Jim used to take me aside and say, look, you know, we got to get another bass player.
Right.
He was taking a lot of drugs. He was getting a bit hard
Right.
to work with, and it was horrible. As we were all such close friends,
Yeah.
you know, it's just not the kind of thing you can cope with in that situation. And it just was, we were burned out.
And then I go to see him, and he's been fired the day before. But he's obviously in sort of shock. It's a handful of days later. It might only have been 2 days. 2 days. There's much greater tragedy. James Honeyman Scott, the guitarist, drops dead, possibly from doing a huge amount of cocaine, affecting his heart. I was shocked. I mean, well, obviously everyone was shocked.
For us, it was a terrible personal loss. I mean, everyone that knew Jim, you know, had their own relationship with him, and I think mostly everyone felt like he was sort of like your little brother. I mean, it kind of felt like I'd lost my right arm or something musically. I
felt it more of a personal loss immediately. More,
Right.
more thick.
Without
You know,
a
as a
doubt.
person, you know, because I'd known Jimmy since the 60s.
Way up in the sky, over the city, over Tokyo.
And it was a year later, I think, she got a phone call to say that Pete had gone as well. He'd shot up heroin in a bath and passed out and drowned.
Nous étions un groupe de rock and roll. Nous aimions le rock. Mais au final, c'est le rock qui nous a tués. En 2 jours, on est passé du statut de meilleur petit groupe du monde à juste moi et le batteur. Ce fut tellement dur à ce moment-là.
Martin kept in close touch with me, not to talk about the group, but just to give me a ring occasionally and say, you know, how are you? We didn't really have much to say to each other, you know, in terms of music, but I think we must have both independently been thinking we'd rather be miserable and in the studio doing something than just miserable and at home doing nothing.
Alors on s'est dit, tentons d'auditionner des guitaristes, on verra bien ce qui se passe. Au studio, j'étais comme un boxeur. Je devais lutter. C'était vraiment éprouvant. Martine et moi étions encore sous le choc. C'était comme demander à quelqu'un de raconter son coma après un accident de voiture. On se disait qu'il ne se passerait peut-être rien et qu'on ne trouverait personne. Mais les graines avaient déjà été semées. On ne pouvait pas envisager d'arrêter le groupe.
Martin was fantastic with me. You know, he made sure that I felt comfortable. We talked a lot. And she started playing Back on the Chain. Back on the Chain Gang. So that's the first thing I actually heard her play.
Back on the train.
Chrissie is somebody who I became very fond of before anything to do with music, because I thought she was a great singer. I loved her voice. It was kind of boundaryless. And at the end of Back on the Chain Gang, she goes, ah. I mean, there's no way that I can get that vibrato, but that vibrato was awesome. I mean, it's so round and voluptuous, and you just want to hold it and cuddle it because it feels so cozy.
Pendant l'audition, quand j'ai entendu la guitare de Robbie, ça a été une évidence. Il écoute de vieux disques et joue de la guitare, exactement comme Jimmy. C'était lui qu'il nous fallait.
Who can get over a loss like that? You don't really get over it. But as she carried on, it actually was her who had the musical direction. So she was able to carry on.
Parfois dans la vie, on peut tout recommencer à partir de zéro. Avec le 3e disque, on a repris les tournées. Ça me manquait tant.
Fatal. Hello, I'm Martin Chambers. Hi, I'm Robbie McIntosh.
Oh, I'm Malcolm Foster.
I'm Chrissie Hynde, and unfortunately, this is the Pretenders.
Ta-da! Thank you!
Get the road. Come on now. Middle of the road, yeah.
She's very basic, you know, when she, like, middle of the road, for instance, she just goes... all very, very punk, like the Ramones or something like that. And so it was up to me when I joined the band to come up with something that makes those chords a bit more interesting, I guess, you know. And Jimmy was very good at that as well. Chrissie's good melody and lyrics, but the backing you need to embellish a little bit. So that was kind of my job.
He's gone 2,000 miles. It's very far. The snow is falling down. It gets colder day by day. I miss you.
Évidemment que j'aurais adoré être Grace Jones et faire dès demain un album comme elle, quelque chose de radicalement différent. Mais ce que je devais faire, c'était terminer ce que j'avais commencé. C'est tout ce dont j'étais capable pour l'instant. Mon groupe était devenu un hommage à ses musiciens d'origine.
Frozen in silent nights. Sometimes in a dream, you appear outside.
J'aime mes musiciens, je les materne, je les encourage, je les pousse en studio. Je me sens plus que jamais leader du groupe.
I feel like I'm the conductor, you know, the guy with the stick, you know, and they're the orchestra, and I'm like making this band come to life. I'm very bossy, basically.
One day, I got to the studio a little bit early, and I started jamming with Martin on drums, and we were just sort of, he played a beat, and I started playing a bass line. And then Chrissie came in, and she liked what we were doing, and we then generated the song that became the B-side, which was called My City Was Gone.
1, 2, 3. It's called My City Was Gone. I went back to Ohio, but my city was gone. There was no train station. There was no downtown. Somehow it had disappeared. All my favorite places. My city had been pulled down, reduced to parking spaces. Hey, oh, where to go?
Talk about the decimation of her hometown because of industrial strife and uninvestment.
I'm from a very ordinary, sort of white, middle-class American, suburban, Bible Belt kind of, you know, colorless background.
I went back to Ohio. but it was gone.
All the rubber factories had pretty much closed down for the most part, and now the factories were closing down, and that's kind of what I grew up with as a teenager. It was becoming a wasteland. The downtown areas were collapsing.
My childhood memories sort of swept past like the wind through the trees. I said, hey, oh, where to go, Ohio?
When I was a teenager listening to the radio, it was really the only thing I was interested in. You know, I grew up when all the best stuff happened as far as rock and roll. I mean, the first album I had was the first Beatles album. I was right there for, you know, I had the first Jimi Hendrix album, Led Zeppelin, all the greats, you know. It made such an impact on me. I can remember when I first picked the albums up, what record store I was in. And also you could reel off the name of 30, 40 amazing bands who were actively working at the time. And every town had its own local band. Any band impressed me.
When I saw you on the street, telling your man you did.
I started writing songs when I was about 14 and I got my first guitar. But mainly being a girl, I was really shy of playing with the other guys at school, so I just tried to make it up on my own. But then when I realized that I could once I made a few chords, I got more interested in melodies and words, and then I started writing songs. Because I was on my own, I had to write.
And now, do you write easily?
I always said I can't write under pressure, I have to be free, but, you know, really, I was bullshitting myself because it's until, you know, the whip is being cracked that I'll motivate. Unfortunately, I'm not proud of it. But I do have other activities in my life. Being a mother and everything, I can't just totally dedicate myself to my work all the time.
J'ai 2 petites filles maintenant, et ça fait ralentir l'allure. Quand elles ont commencé l'école, j'ai arrêté les voyages, les tournées. Et au bout de 8 ans, mes filles m'ont autorisé à reprendre. J'ai très envie de sang neuf pour le groupe, de plonger dans des eaux inconnues.
That era for the Pretenders was kind of starting again a bit with a new band, and we did theatres, you know, 3,000 plus venues, and then we moved into doing the Sheds in America. It's a kind of like a small stadium, so I mean, you know, they got up to, what's Wembley, 80,000, you know. And then, you know, we did Madison Square Gardens with the Stones, and we did big shows in Germany and Europe. That was kind of the level then we were at. It takes courage to be a musician or an artist in the first place, and you've got to feel like your discipline is taking you to the point where you feel like you can go out there and do that. When you come from a military background, you're pretty good at executing that. That's the war you're fighting, you know.
Me dire que j'ai la capacité de faire danser les gens, de faire qu'ils aiment un peu plus leur vie. Qu'y a-t-il de plus fort que ça? Pour moi, le rock, ça aide à se sentir vivant.
She did make music for everyone, you know. She wanted to liberate everyone, and she wanted to hold people to account, you know, and she represented that in her music.
I see him standing silhouetted in the lamplight. I cross the street and I quicken my pace. He cups his hands and he lights a cigarette. I find myself in the bones of his face. It's just a night in my veins. Oh, make me call in the dust again. It's just a night under my skin.
The Pretenders is a band, and it's a group of mavericks. It's a gang, you know. it's a gang of bikers, you know, if you like. It's kind of going out and being this nomadic force for good and fun.
Mon truc, c'est les bikers. Ces parias de la société qui ont leur propre système de valeurs. Le biker est libre. Il peut se tirer seul dans la montagne comme un loup. Il vit selon ses propres règles. C'est un combattant pour la liberté. C'est un rebelle.
It's from India. It's an illegal market. It's all sold on the black market. The cows are inhumanely treated, and now the Gap knows this, and they're still selling these jackets.
Shame on Gap! Shame on Gap! Shame on Gap!
I've got a record deal. I've got a cooking band, but I want more. I want to do the records, but I still want to change the world, and I still want to bring the establishment to its knees. That's what I always wanted. And now I feel like, why shouldn't I have a go and try?
Right now, you're involved pretty politically. Animal rights,
I wouldn't
tell me
call
about
it politically. It's
Okay.
more of a humanitarian thing, I think.
Good,
It's
okay.
the people for the ethical treatment of animals.
And they called the police, you got arrested. And how did it end up?
Well, the Gap has now agreed to stop using Indian
good for
leather.
you.
So yeah.
That's it.
Three at last! How'd it go?
Good.
Why animal rights? Why did you get so passionately involved with that?
I definitely, promoting vegetarianism is my thing. I don't like meat eaters. I think it's indefensible. Why would you kill an animal if you didn't have to? People kill animals because they think it's all right to kill them. Of course, we know as vegetarians that it's not about animals, it's really about people. Because if you can mistreat an animal, then the next step is, you know, how do you treat your brother man?
L'homme a tout déréglé dans ce monde. Il y a de plus en plus de catastrophes. On s'est bien foutu dans la merde. Et maintenant, il faut payer la note. Ce que je veux, c'est faire plier les multinationales, les humilier publiquement. C'est presque aussi fort pour moi que d'être dans un groupe de rock. Au fond, c'est rock. Car ma conception du rock, c'est qu'il doit allier justice et liberté.
People always have these weird ideas about why you do this. The whole idea of being on stage, that it's all about this adulation or this energy from the audience.
Le public attend de nous qu'on soit des rockstars confiantes, défoncées, qui baissent beaucoup, qui restent minces. Mais le rock, c'est quand même bien au-dessus de tout ça.
In a band, you have to be who you are on the street and when you're on stage. You can't change. Being in rock and roll, it's not about changing, it's about being yourself all the time.
Don't get me wrong. If I'm acting so distracted, I'm thinking about the fireworks that go off when you smile. Don't get me wrong. If I split like refract.